The Fast Pound, Slow Pound podcast is where we speak to successful business owners and entrepreneurs about their challenges, their journey, and how they've got to where they are today. And with that said, let's get into the podcast. Rio, thanks a lot for coming on, mate. And the reason why I wanted to get you on is because you've achieved what I believe that a lot of people want to achieve, and that is doing something that you're really passionate about as your job.
Yeah.
So, but before we get into that, can you just tell me a little bit about yourself and how it all started?
Yeah, so obviously really excited to be here, mate, so thanks for having me on. So I've always been quite entrepreneurial, I would say. My parents had their own business growing up, something that obviously you can relate to with obviously your dad. So I've seen what it's like to run a business. I've been in and around that. Parents, it doesn't sound so attractive, but parents working late, being under stress. But obviously when times are good, times are really good. So that's always kind of drove me to want to do something myself. I've always been passionate about health and fitness because I've got a footballing background. I still play football now at a decent level. So I've always been passionate about health and fitness. So it just kind of made sense to tie the two together in terms of obviously my entrepreneurial drive and wanting to get involved in and teach other people how to do health and fitness, the lessons that I've learned. It didn't happen straight away for me. Prior to starting business, I was doing accounting, which again you can relate to. So I've been in industry. I've been, I started off with an apprenticeship, doing my AAT. So again, I understand the business, how money works behind a business. That was the reason for getting involved in that, and it was always kind of to have that foundational knowledge to push on and do my own thing. But as you say now, I'm obviously running online coaching business, which is going really, really well. Something that I'm really passionate about in terms of, again, the lessons that I've learned myself going through health and fitness, helping other people achieve what they want to achieve through health and fitness.
Yeah, that makes sense, mate. So you talked about you seeing your mum and dad having these late nights and whatnot.
Yeah.
What was that? What about that attracted you to want to do it yourself?
Again, I've always admired my parents' drive and their discipline. What my mum and dad have done for me and my siblings, our family, has been nothing short of incredible. And it's really admirable to see them kind of put themselves second to their family. In a lot of instances, like I say, I've seen them work a lot of late nights. My mum still runs the shop now. Yeah. She still works a lot of late nights, especially in and around events. Obviously, they're florists, so like Mother's Days, Valentine's Days, it's crazy. And there's definitely a lot of admiration for the hard work that she puts in terms of running the shop. And again, I've seen the reward that they get from that hard work in terms of financially. I've always been blessed on going on lots of nice holidays when I was a kid. We love going to Florida as a family, going to the theme parks there. So I've seen the reward that they get from that hard work. And it's something, again, that I admire so much that I now have that drive to be able to provide that for my family one day. Yeah,
that makes sense. So it sounds like you sort of admired the selflessness that they had to provide for the family.
Yeah.
And also the rewards that you got.
Yeah.
So a lot of entrepreneurs, and are you the same, that they had a bit of rebelliousness in them, like not wanting to be told what to do? Or were you not fussed about that?
Oh, no, definitely a large part of, again, the entrepreneurial drive is seeing how, again, my parents were able to do things on their own terms. And it's crazy. I know we've spoke about this before where, you think I'm going to leave my 9 to 5 to have the freedom that I want, but essentially you do leave a 9 to 5 for a 24/7.
Yeah.
But again, having that freedom, like being here today, it's something that I wouldn't be able to do. Nor would I be on this podcast if I obviously was working a 9 to 5. But having this freedom to take time out to be able to do something like this is something that's really exciting.
Yeah. So what age? Can you remember what age? Because I want to dive into like who you were in school and stuff like that. So what age? Can you remember seeing your mum and dad working these? Long days and stuff?
Really, really early, like even as far back as primary school. After I finished primary school, I used to go up my nana's after school, and then my mum would come to pick me up to take me home later on once she'd finished work. Again, sometimes that would be really late. A lot of the time it was probably in and around 5 and 6 o'clock. And then obviously that was like my primary school experience. Moved to secondary school, it was a lot closer to home. And again, seeing them have a lot later nights as well. But again, I think in terms of when I knew that I wanted to do something similar, probably started in and around 16. I remember when I was 16 and reading Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah. So if you left school at that point, or are you just leaving school?
Yeah, I think I'd left school at that point, just started college, and that's when you kind of like, right, what do I want to do with my life here?
So what was your? So obviously you didn't go into like entrepreneurship from college, like a lot of people didn't. But what stage you're in? So what did you choose to do from school? Like what was your decision to do?
So I was toying with doing the idea of like personal training, health and fitness, but then I actually went to an open evening for A levels at Middlesbrough College, and they kind of convinced me to do A levels instead. So I went and done A levels at Middlesbrough College for a couple of years, and then got an apprenticeship doing finance and accounting.
So did you see finance and accounting being in your future, even though you were really passionate about health and fitness and sport?
No, I don't think I did, but I think what drove me towards finance was, again, the drive. At that point, I was entrepreneurial. I'm talking probably about 18, 19 here at this point when I got the apprenticeship. So I'd had that 2 years in college, at which obviously it was a bit of an eye-opener as to, right, okay, I need to start being an adult here now. I need to start having my life together and thinking about what I want to do. And again, as I say, it started probably a self-development path with reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So that's when I was like, okay, this sparked the entrepreneurial spirit within me. Even though it was always there from seeing, what I've seen with my parents, this was like, okay, I need to start doing this now and putting these kind of thoughts and feelings into action.
So you're about 18 at this point.
Yeah.
I need to do something for myself. You started to have that.
Yeah, again, 16, I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, so it was in and around that area throughout 2 years of doing A-levels where I was like, okay, I need to do something here.
Such a good book, isn't it?
Oh, I love that book. Like I say, that was the first one that I read, and I've read so many more, but that just holds a special place in my heart.
I think that was probably one of the first books I read as well, coming out from school. I can remember how I felt after it. It was just like a light bulb had been switched on.
That's exactly
difficult to get that feeling again now at this age, I think.
I know, again, probably coming from experience where we've read a lot of the books that say all the same things over and over again, having that kind of that lesson taught to you for the first time, that's probably irreplaceable. And again, as you say, just the light bulb, the spark, it's what kickstarts the journey.
Yeah, definitely. So, sorry, I've sort of interrupted you there, mate.
It's
so,
okay.
So you're about 18, 19, you've got an urge to sort of start putting something into practice for yourself now. And is that when you started so what did you start at that point?
So at that point, it was doing accounting and finance with the apprenticeship. The idea behind doing accounting and finance was to understand how money worked behind the business, because like I say, I wanted to do something for myself. And I thought that, it's not a bad career to have to fall back on if something didn't work. So again, I would just want to understand, about profit and losses, balance sheets, all these kinds of things that I come to learn that have ultimately stood me in good stead in understanding the mechanics behind money in my business.
Yeah, that makes sense. So when did you actually start what you're doing now?
So obviously I'd done my apprenticeship doing accounting and finance. I had a couple of different jobs after that. And it was 2019, the back end of 2019, where I started actually, started Sylo, Sort Your Life Out, health and fitness. And then obviously COVID came not long after. So I kind of left my job and started my own thing just as COVID hit. So I kind of waived my rights to furlough. I was like, what have I done? I've made a massive mistake. But again,
how was that? How did you feel about that?
It was really bizarre. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know where my money was going to be coming from. It was difficult. But again, that's what kind of, those difficult times, what kind of motivate you and kick you into gear to be able to obviously, work you up and accelerate the process they give you that bit between your teeth. So again, started doing kind of plans. What was good about COVID is obviously everyone became a lot more health conscious. So I started making plans for people during obviously lockdown. And then it just started to grow a client base from there. Then once lockdown stopped, that grew into personal training. And then from personal training, I've obviously maneuvered into the online coaching now.
Yeah, we'll definitely get into that. But I want to understand the journey and the pain points from being 18, 19 to taking ultimately that leap. Like how long was that gap? So you said 2019, how old would you have been then?
2019, I would have been 23. So probably 4 years of doing accounting and finance.
Did you start? So you've been working in accounting and finance for 4 years. Did you have? At what point did you get the urge to actually like take the leap? And talk to me about like, was that a gradual thing, or did you just, because so I got furloughed and I just said, look, I'm not coming back.
Yeah.
Was yours as cutthroat as that, or did you do it more progressively? Like, how did you find the well, I don't know what you call it. Like, how did you find that sort of strength to sort of say like, look, I'm actually gonna do this?
Yeah, mine was definitely a lot more gradual. It wasn't quite as a leap as much as yours was. I was fortunate from the business that I was working at the time, which was a recruitment agency. I had a really good boss, the owner of the recruitment agency. She allowed me to kind of, as long as I was getting my work done, she allowed me to kind of work on things on my own time. So obviously I do say that I started Sylo in 2019, but it was conceptualized well before that.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like a gradual thing that I wanted to start trying to put things in place. And at that point, to be honest with you, mate, I was kind of delaying it a lot myself. I almost like wanted to be perfect to start. And as we both know, you're never going to be perfect. No. You're never going to be perfect once you've been doing it 10 years, never mind before you've even started. You're going to learn the most when you start. So I did have that kind of, maybe it was a little bit of like a fear of failure. I want to make sure it's perfect because when I do take that leap, I want to make sure that it works. But again, you're going to learn so much once you've taken the leap. There's never going to be a perfect time to start. So I was a lot more gradual. It was probably something where I was fortunate as well, given that I had that kind of boss who supported me.
Boss, yeah.
Yeah.
Was she an entrepreneur as well? Like,
yeah, definitely. Yeah. So like I say, she founded her.
She understood what you were sort of going through from her point of view.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. She founded that recruitment agency, and it still runs today for supply teachers. So like I say, I was really fortunate that I had her support, and I talk about fear of failure. She instilled a lot of belief in me as well to say, you can do this, like you're capable of these things. Which was a massive help as well. Obviously, it worked to her detriment in the end because I ended up leaving. But she allowed me to kind of phase my leave in terms of I went down from full-time to 2 days a week. And then at that point, it was kind of like, I'm getting all my tasks done for you here. But even the 2 days that I'm here, I just feel like it's taking me away from what I really want to do. So that's when I said, I've got a really sweet gig here because you're allowing me to do 2 days, get my tasks done, and obviously work on stuff in my own time. But I want to commit all of my time to this because I've worked it up to this point now where I'm only working 2 days and 3 days on the business. Imagine what I could do when I'm working 5 days on the business, and obviously as we come to know, 24/7 on the business. So that was kind of when I took that leap just before lockdown had hit, really. And like I say, that's when I took the leap and started doing it myself.
So when you were working 3 days on the business, what was the business at that point? Because I believe it has transitioned, hasn't it, over the last couple of years?
Massively. I mean, it's kind of like an ever-evolving process, to be honest with you. From what it started to what it is now, it's crazy to think that I've done so much in such a short space of time. So again, it was kind of doing plans for people to begin with, exercise plans, nutritional plans. I'm a big believer in that when it comes to nutrition, there's no one diet fits all approach. So it was very personalized plans. It was like, which foods do you like? And putting together a plan based off their preferences, and obviously like calorie controlling it, macro portioning it to fit their caloric needs and ultimately their goal. That's what it started out as in particular. Again, the work that I was doing within those 3 days was a lot on trying to build a bit of a social media presence, trying to...
Getting good at it, I guess.
Yeah, trying. Yeah. I mean, I always remember the first video that I tried. It took me like an hour worth of recording to get like 5 minutes worth of content. I'm a little bit better at it now. Still not perfect by any stretch, but again, the more you do something, the better you get it. So yeah, that was kind of how I was spending the 3 days. Trying to build a bit of a social media presence, trying to create like documents that could help people, putting together a website, all these kinds of things really that I thought needed to be perfect. When looking back at it now, they didn't. So I could have took the leap much earlier, but I'm just thankful that I, was able to take the leap at all.
Yeah. How would you describe the business then? Like, how were you doing at that point?
At that point.
Were you happy with where you were at, or what?
Yeah, I mean, things... back at that point, I didn't know what it was going to evolve to be, and I just knew that I liked health and fitness. I didn't have a specific business model in mind. I just knew I liked health and fitness. I knew that nutrition played a massive part in that, and I knew that I wanted to be able to help people. I'd been sat at a desk doing accounting and finance, not really feel like I'm contributing much. So be able to reach out to people, speak to them one-on-one, and be able to help them essentially change their lives in terms of being more confident and happier with how they look and performing better. That was something that was a massive drive for me.
Is that what it's all about for you then?
100%. So I definitely love getting the texts from clients now to say that they've looked in the mirror or looked at their progress photos and they can't believe the difference, to hear that they're performing loads better in relationships, careers. That really drives me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely want to get into that a little bit more. Tell me about the process of going from like 3 days part-time to having taking the proper leap, let's say, and going at it full-time, and how by taking that leap and being brave, how did that transform the business?
Yeah, so taking that leap, like I say, it was in and around the COVID lockdown, so I kind of had to, there wasn't an instance at which I could like get to see people one-to-one, so it was kind of having to evolve to do everything online, and it just really kickstarted me. There was like, there's no other option here. I need to succeed at this, because ultimately I'm not going to be getting an income. So I'm not going to be able to pay bills, and I'm not going to be able to survive. Obviously, I've got people around me that would help support me, but ultimately I needed to make this work. And again, it was kind of that perfect start that I was wanting. I certainly didn't get it.
You phased it down and you delayed it to try and get that perfect start. It still didn't happen.
Absolutely not. It never would happen.
No,
it never will happen. I know that now in hindsight, but at the time I wanted to be perfect, and it probably couldn't have been a worse time given the lockdown. So again, it just really motivated me and kickstarted me to really push myself.
So what things were you doing? Were you just doing more of what you were doing, or what were you learning at the time to really push the business forward with that extra focus and that extra time you had?
Yeah, so obviously there was a lot, again, social media presence, learning how to kind of portray myself in videos in terms of, hooks, in terms of delivering value.
Just the
marketing side of things. Content marketing was obviously, it still is massive for me. So again, it was kind of learning the ropes with that, understanding more about Instagram's algorithm. I was basically I tried to develop a service and a product, and now I had to kind of market it to get it out there because I needed to make some money, given the fact that I was responsible for my own income.
Yeah, 100%. Are we talking about the online stuff now?
It was somewhat online given the COVID pandemic. Once that ended, that's when I went into the personal training.
Personal training bit. So we're at the personal training stuff now, you would say?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how did that come about when you were already online, and obviously that's what you're doing now?
Yeah, I mean, I was online, but I was never online. I wasn't online to the extent that I am now in terms of the service that I deliver now. It was kind of more so just, here's a program, I'll check in with you occasionally. How's things going? Do you need any adaptations to the program? No, things are sweet. It was never really again, to the extent and hands-on is what it is now. But obviously I'll come back around to that. So once that kind of stopped and it went to the personal training side of things, again, I was living with my parents at this time, and I developed a home gym in their garage, which again was really fortunate for myself during the pandemic, because I could still train, whereas a lot of people obviously didn't have access to the gym. So over the years, just added more equipment to it, tidied it up a little bit. When I first started, it was dusty, the lights weren't working, it was just a treadmill in there, and then I added a multi-gym, and again, over time, more equipment got added, it got cleaned up, it got scrubbed up nicely, and then from then I thought, this is when I'm going to start training people in here now. So that's when I was having the face-to-face contact with people, and I was getting them in there 2-3 times a week. Sometimes it was doing boxercise sessions, sometimes it was lifting weights. So that's when I really started with the personal training side of things.
Were you happy with where things were at then? Were you happy that you were, were you happy with how things were going?
Yeah, definitely. So I was happy seeing people on a regular basis. Again, having those regular touch points with people and helping them through their journey, as opposed to when I was doing it more so to begin with, it was just kind of like, here's a plan, you follow that. I'll touch in with you halfway through. I'll touch in with you at the end. How did it go? Whereas now I'm seeing people 2-3 times a week. I'm seeing how they're progressing, how they're physically changing, how they're mentally changing as well, which again, that was like the first time I was like, I really enjoy seeing your progression here, particularly the mental one for me. I know it's mad to say because it's personal training. A lot of the connotations with that is you want to see a physical transformation, but it's the mental transformation that comes with it. It's actually my favorite thing about health and fitness, the things that you learn to get the body that you want, how it translates into other areas of life in terms of relationships, business, which no doubt we'll obviously, touch on a little bit more later down the line. But again, I was seeing that on a regular basis with people because I had so many touch points with them.
Is it feeling like, I remember like when I started my business, I remember it like when I used to hit certain milestones or whatnot, it used to feel a bit surreal. Do you know what I mean? I didn't know what, like you said, I'd always wanted my own business, but I didn't know what my own business felt like or looked like. So is it starting to feel like that to you at this point, or was it before that or after?
No, I'd say it was probably at this point doing the personal training where I start to feel like I can support myself financially now. This is a business. This is when people go to work and they work the 9 to 5. This is what I do for my living now. That's what at that point. Yeah. And I was, like I say, seeing people on a regular basis, had like a good client base. And, it kind of it almost felt to the point where I was getting like a little bit more comfortable, which is why obviously I had to push out my comfort zone to do what I'm doing now. So yeah, obviously the transformation from the personal training become online because ultimately I wanted to have that more freedom and flexibility. I didn't want to be tied to a schedule in terms of working evenings with people.
It sounds exactly like where I was at, because I think we have had similar journeys, haven't we?
We have,
went to the same school and started at the same time, and like it was only last year I was like, I've started this business to have more freedom, and I haven't got more freedom. Like something needs to change. Obviously, sounds like similar again, like a similar place to where you were at.
Definitely. So again, it had its constraints still. I mean, I was proud of what I'd achieved and what I'd built in the client base that I had.
I think you were doing meal preps as well at the time, weren't you?
Yeah, so again, that's another part of the journey. So whilst I was kind of building a client base of personal training clients, I also started meal preps, and the idea was that obviously the nutrition would certainly complement what the personal trainers, the personal training clients are doing. It turned out that it was probably I had a group of personal trainers and then a group of people who got the meal preps on a regular basis. There was very little overlap there.
So you were running basically 2 businesses by yourself.
Exactly.
I remember you telling me some of the crazy hours you were doing as well.
Honestly, when I was doing both those things, I had personal training like pretty much every day of the week. I was meal prepping on a Wednesday and meal prepping on a Sunday. Sunday was an all-day thing. Yeah. And I play football on a Saturday, so it was basically working every day of the week for like a good year or just over.
I know.
It was crazy, and again, like I say, it was an all day. It actually started on the Saturday night, like slow cooking meats overnight, so that they were nice and tender to go in the meal preps on a Sunday, and then obviously getting up at like 8 o'clock on a Sunday, and then I was even delivering them myself to like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night up in like Gisborough and all over the place. Yeah, it was some crazy hours. Honestly, it makes me laugh when I look back at it now, and I was thinking like I used to cook, used to portion it out and make sure everything was precise for the macros and the calories, and then obviously deliver them myself. I got, again, some help with that, fortunately, and people used to come and collect as well. But even, like I say, it runs up to Gisborough and Redcar and, Martin and stuff. It's just mad.
I think there's a couple of things to talk about, isn't there? Like, I think naturally you try and serve each sort of pain point for your client, don't you?
Yeah.
But, it sounds like, well, I think you've gone further by just focusing in on one element, haven't you, rather than trying to solve like the, like the meal prep side of things as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think at that time I was just wanting to try and get results to get repeat like custom and ultimately have good testimonials. So I wanted to do everything for, a few people, and it never really works out that way. You just need to kind of focus in on one thing. And obviously go all in on that, which is exactly what I'm doing now, because I was, stretching myself too thin in too many different areas.
So you dropped the meal preps side of it off. Were you still doing the PTs at that point?
Yeah, so still doing PTs. PTs continued up until, again, it was kind of like a phased it kind of phased out as online coaching grew. So I decided to drop the meal preps and really look at this online coaching, which
you
I'd
made
seen.
a conscious effort to do that then, because you felt like you didn't really have the freedom that you wanted when you started the business.
Exactly that, yeah. Again, 7 days a week was no freedom. So I knew that something
That's crazy, isn't it?
It is. It's
How
mad.
mad is that?
I know, and I tried it for, like I say, a year, and I was thinking, I'm not really dedicating enough effort to either of these things to get them to grow to the point where I can drop the other. So I just need to drop the other now and then really go all in on one thing. So that one thing was the personal training. And then, like I say, I thought that could lead and segue really well into the online coaching, which I knew would give me, at this point, I knew dropping the meal preps, maintaining what I had in terms of personal training, and then going into online coaching was what was going to get me the freedom that I wanted.
You make that sound like an easy decision there, but I know full well that wasn't an easy decision for you.
It wasn't an easy decision at all.
What was going through your mind? Like, so you've started your business, you're getting success with PT and you're getting success with meal preps, but doing them both together is just an absolute nightmare, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, what was going through your head at that point? Did you want to quit? Did you ever feel like going down the other route? Like, what tell me what was going on?
Absolutely. I think I changed my mind so many times on it, to be honest, mate. I remember, we even went to see a premises to really go all in on the meal preps and start doing it from, start getting the delivery driver in and really automating it. So again, it was, I probably changed my mind on it, numerous times, like 10, 20 times, but I thought something had to change. And the easiest thing really was to stick with the PT, where I had no real, there was no real like expenditure on it because I was doing it out of, my parents' garage. Yeah. There was no rent to pay. There was no ingredients to pay for, no fuel costs, no energy bills or anything like that. So again, that just made the most sense. And like I say, I think part of it was the ability to segue into the online coaching.
Was it more enjoyable than the meal prep side of it?
Yeah. Do you know what? I don't regret doing the meal prep side of things because it was certainly an eye-opener and it teaches you, different things. But I'd certainly say that it was more enjoyable having that touch point, again, the regular touch point with people. And don't get me wrong, I had regular people with the meal preps as well that I would have touch points with and speak to them when I'm delivering and obviously when they're ordering. But again, it was kind of, there was no real progression there in terms of helping them achieve their goals. Whereas with the personal training, again, I got that touch point with people who were in the right mindset because they were, investing in themselves to do personal training where there was more progression there.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you don't regret it?
No, I definitely don't regret it because, like I said, lessons were learned for sure.
Did you ever feel like just because you had too much on your plate, did you ever feel like just going, sack it all off?
Oh, I feel like that even now.
It's true though, isn't it?
It is.
I think a lot of people actually don't speak about that.
No,
but it's definitely true. Yeah.
100%. There's certainly times where you do have those days. Ultimately, the thought comes in your head like, what if I just chose an easier life, like a 9 to 5 where I can switch off after 5 o'clock and I can do whatever I want and I'm not messaging people back or fixing this little bug that's on, the website or anything like that.
It impacts your life and your relationships, doesn't it?
For sure. Luckily I've, Alicia, my partner's really understanding about it. We spoke about it at length lots, to be honest with you. It's something that she has to be okay with. Like you say, it has an impact on your relationships and your life and even social life in terms of friends asking you, like, come here for the weekend. Or I can't because, I've got to make sure that I'm on it for Monday. And again, we're talking about like buying back our freedom, but I think that it kind of takes it from you in the short term, but I'm doing this to get freedom for the back end of my life. I'm working hard in my 20s to try and get, freedom later in life.
Yeah, I think it's also, when you said like, you spoke to your missus and, she sort of has to accept it. But I think that's because we've got entrepreneurs, we've got something in us where it's like, you could just get a job working in the gym, PTing, and have an easy life, but you've got something in you which is, you just can't put you can't put your finger on it. It's been with you since you've been 7, 8 year old, and you've seen your parents and stuff like that. So it's a blessing and a curse, isn't it, at the same time?
It is, and ultimately it does make things difficult from time to time, like you say, to the point where you do feel like is this even worth it? Should I just give up and do the normal thing? But as you say, you've got that entrepreneurial spirit, that drive to, I want to create something that's bigger than myself here. And I really want to prove to myself that I can do this because ultimately I'm passionate about it.
Sometimes I think, like, how could you not want your own business? Like, I just can't get my head around it. But I guess they have that same thing to us. Like, why would you want your business? Why would you want your own business? Why would you want all that stress?
Yeah, of course. I mean, again, there's that, it derives from that spark, that spirit that obviously we both have. Where a lot of the things that you do say in terms of working the 24/7 and having strain on your relationships and things of that nature, people will probably look at that and be like, I don't want any of that. Yeah. But ultimately for us, it is worth it. Picture. Yeah, it's the bigger picture. It's worth it, again, doing that now to have what we want in the future, which is successful business, having that freedom, that automation, to be able to have that, like I say, that freedom to do what you want.
Mm-hmm. So you've dropped the meal preps now. You still do, did you see, was it a pretty instant like boost in the amount of PTs that you were doing, or talk to me about, so
obviously it freed me up with more time to be able to concentrate on marketing again, to be able to get more PT clients. And I did get to a point where I was doing really well with PTs, and I was kind of comfortable with the client base that I had. I've always been pretty good with retention of clients with doing the PTs. So it tend to be when I got clients that they would stay for a long time.
Is that something that PTs struggle with, the retention, is it? Or?
Maybe so. I'm not entirely sure, to be honest with you. I just find that obviously I want to make the experience enjoyable, and that still spills into my program today. I want to make it as enjoyable as possible, or at least put minimal friction in place, because ultimately if you can stick to something, if you can enjoy it, you're going to stick to it, and if you can stick to it, you're going to be consistent, and if you're consistent, you can get results. So again, it's something that I always want to do in terms of making the experience as enjoyable as possible. Ultimately, I do think I'm good at doing that, hence why people would book on for another kind of course or another block booking. So I got to a point where I was pretty kind of comfortable with the clients that I had, albeit working long hours, again, evenings, back-to-back sessions. It can really take out of you, especially when you're in a role as a personal trainer, when you need to be a motivator. And again, I want to make it an enjoyable experience, so I'm high energy. Sometimes I would do like 4 sessions back-to-back, one after another, and I'd be like, right, I am absolutely goosed here because I've just gave a lot of my energy to the last 4 people. And just being one-on-one with someone in a room, again, is kind of like, again, I'm trying to give them a lot of energy, and I'm trying to focus on everything that they're saying and everything that they're doing. So again, it's kind of, it was taking a lot out of me, to be honest with you. Again, when you were doing like 4 sessions back-to-back, you have half an hour lunch, and then you're another 4 sessions back-to-back, it does take a lot out of you. So albeit I was enjoying it in terms of seeing the progress, it was hard work as well.
I think what I get from that is like, you found like another block in the model, if you know what I mean. Like when you were doing the meal preps and the PT, you found that you couldn't give your attention to it, and that was the block. And this one was sort of the energy that needed to be put into these one-to-one sessions. And was that one of the reasons why you decided to go online?
Yeah, definitely. So that was certainly one of the things, the energy that I needed putting into people to be able to provide that service that ultimately retained clients and made it an enjoyable experience. But again, there was also just the fact that I was limited to how many hours there was in a day.
Yeah.
I could only take on so many clients. So it got to a point where I was kind of fully booked.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, there's no real need to post on social media because I'm not looking for any new clients. And I probably went like a good 6 months to a year really without really doing the posting, all the things that I'd built to build up my client base.
It's a long time, isn't it?
It is. I mean, I say not posting, I was very inconsistent with it, let's say. And then but obviously clients would leave for whatever reason, it was like, I've got nothing in the form of leads here. I haven't got a waiting list. I haven't got anything. So it's kind of like, right, okay, I need to start again now. And then there was a little bit of inconsistency there. So I wanted to develop something that was a little bit more consistent. I wanted to
a bit more scalable, maybe.
Scalable for sure.
Enjoyable, I guess, with the delivery of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That was it. That was exactly it. Again, I wanted more time for myself in terms of not working daft evenings, early hours in the morning, and I wanted something that I could scale again to just increase my income even further.
And obviously that's where you're at now.
Yeah. So obviously,
talk to me about the leap that you've done from from deciding to go online? Because did you feel when you took the leap from leaving employment, did you feel these same emotions that you did? Did it feel like a different thing? Was it as scary or?
No, I think I felt pretty similar, to be honest. It was kind of like, okay, I'm like closing this chapter of my life here. And I say that I suppose it was a little bit different actually from going from employed to do my own thing, because that was like certainly closing a chapter. Whereas this was a little bit, again, like a phased leave in terms of I'm going to allow PT clients to drop. I'm not going to, when they're up, I'm not going to renew them, and I'm going to really look to put time into the online thing because I'm looking to grow this side of things now. And even in a lot of instances saying I'm no longer offering, face-to-face personal training, but you can go online if you would like. And it probably felt like more phased, I would say, because again, there's a lot of parallels between the two, personal training and online. Whereas with the employment to self-employed, it was probably more of a jump.
I suppose you would have been scared, as if to say, like, what if they don't go online? Like, would I be able to get any online clients? Like, what if it didn't work out and stuff like that? Did you have? I suppose it was just natural. There would have been natural sort of thoughts. But did you have that, or were you like?
Yeah, absolutely. I had those. I mean, I was scared because it was an unknown for me still. Even though I'd delivered like plans and stuff online previously, I'd never again delivered a program to the extent that people could deliver now. Obviously, I'm talking about 4 years apart, and obviously things progress, models change, and I knew that I obviously had to adapt to this new model, and it was scary because I didn't really know what I was doing. So that's when I decided to invest in a mentor, which was massive for me in terms of kickstarting the online side of things, knowing what I needed to be doing, knowing that I was talking to someone who had done this themselves and it was a proven method, and they knew exactly what I needed to be doing and how much of it I needed to be doing and what are the biggest like levers to pull to get the business moving forward. I think that was huge, and that's one thing that I would certainly recommend for anybody is if they
100%.
are unsure on what they're doing, invest in a mentor, someone who has done it, someone who has proven that they can do it and they can also help other people do it as well.
Did you get a mentor for any of your other businesses that you've done, like the meal prep or the PT stuff?
No, I'd always done that off my own back, just again through like reading books, watching podcasts, videos, things of that nature.
Is like so powerful, isn't it?
Oh, for sure.
I think people underestimate self-education.
Yeah, for sure. I was always massive on that. Even like when people would like, I don't know, go to bed and turn Netflix on, I was like turning YouTube on and I was watching like people talk about nutrition. I was watching people talk about business. So again, that was kind of like how I preferred to learn. But again, I think that can only take you to a certain level. And I do think that also you would further accelerate that process for sure by investing in a mentor, someone who knows, who's deciphered through what's the right information that you need and what's the noise that you don't need to kind of digest. If you do these things, you will get this outcome, because I've done it myself. I've trained other people to do it, so you just need to do it. As opposed, exactly, the blueprint, the roadmap, as opposed to, okay, is this going to be beneficial? I'm going to watch this video, but is it going to actually help me in terms of moving me forward? I don't know. 10 minutes, 15 minutes in, it's like not really helping me. It's not really what I'm looking for here. So again, it just accelerates that process.
So why did you think you needed a mentor when you were doing the online coaching, but you didn't feel like you needed a mentor when you were doing the meal prep or the PT stuff?
I suppose it was the initial investment, like financial investment, to be honest. It was a little bit daunting.
Did you look into it at all?
In terms of the PTs and the meal preps, I'd never really looked into it or thought about it. I don't know, maybe it's a bit naive looking back now, but I thought it was something that, because I was entrepreneurial, I thought that I'd be able to handle. But again, you can't buy experience, so you can't.
Your own experience, I guess.
Yeah.
You can sort of leverage others.
Yes, exactly that. Yeah. So again, that was it was a decision. I was at a point where I was like, I really need to go all in on this, and again, a mentor was certainly the best investment that I could make in order to do that.
You might have like felt the pain of not having a mentor as well, and thought, surely this can fast track where I want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, in hindsight, it certainly has done that. So I don't know where I would be now if I didn't invest in a mentor. I would honestly place that much kind of emphasis on it. But I'm certainly in a much better position now, given the fact that I did invest.
Because what I've found as well when I've invested in mentors, it's a lot of it is not, you sort of know what they're going to say, but it's hearing it from someone. And obviously making that financial investment as well gets that skin in the game, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Definitely that. I think you're more inclined to do it because you've got, as you say, that skin in the game. And then the lessons that they're teaching, you've probably read in a book 100 times.
Listened to from just a general social media post or something like that.
Absolutely. But when you've got someone, again, holding you accountable to that lesson, that's completely different. Again, when you see it on a video, it's like, that makes sense. I'm probably going to do that. And then 2 weeks down the line, you've done nothing about it. Whereas if a mentor says, this is what you need to do, and then 2 days later, they're saying, have you done that? You're like, wow, I really need to do this.
Yeah.
So you do it, and then obviously you get the result off the back of it, and it just reinforces it.
So what would you say to anyone who's in two minds about getting a mentor? What would you say?
I would say 100% do it. 100% do it. You can always make that money back, but you're never going to get this time back. So what I think a mentor is buying that time, accelerating that process. So again, you're going to make that money back, but you'll never buy the time back to again accelerate that process. You 100% need to do it.
What about selecting a mentor? Because like 2024 is like a big, it's the time that we live in now. Is there's a lot of people who are, I guess, doing mentorship. What advice would you give to someone who is looking to select a mentor?
It's a good question. That I think ultimately a mentor is someone you're going to have a relationship with, albeit a professional relationship. So it's someone that you need to admire for sure. It's someone that needs to have done what you're wanting to do, gone where you're wanting to go, and has obviously helped deliver that to other people as well. Again, getting along with them, but it's also someone who that when they tell you something, you're going to deliver on it because they have that authority. And again, I think that you can probably gauge this through social media. Obviously, most mentors are going to be posting social media content. So again, if it's someone who you like the messages that they're speaking, they like the messages that they're delivering, you feel so that you can get along with them really well, you admire what they've achieved themselves and they have that authority, then I think that probably sounds like a good pick for you as a mentor.
That's good advice. Really good advice. So obviously you're online now, but I want people to understand the transition that you've had to take as a business person, going from a PT to running an online business. So what let's start off with like what your days looked like as a PT and what your days look like now as an online business coach.
Yeah. So PT would be getting up probably. I'd be getting up real early if I had like morning sessions, like really early sessions that people are getting in before work. So I might be getting up at 5:30 to deliver a 6 o'clock session and then a 7 o'clock session for people before work. Might get a few people in after the school run. Probably freeing myself up at 11, 12 to have some lunch and then look at the social media side of things. Obviously, the middle of the day is when people are least likely to take PT sessions. After that, I'd probably look at getting my own session in and then obviously ready for the evening block of clients. Things look a lot different now. I'm able to...
Just on that sort of schedule there, it looks like you spent a lot of time delivering.
Yes.
Didn't it? And then with a bit of social media in.
Yeah. So again, it was just kind of, there was no real structure to the social media at that point either. It was just kind of like, that would maybe make a good video. I'm just going to do something in and around that. There was no scripting for it. There was no real setup for it, anything to make it engaging. It was just talking to the camera and trying to deliver a point that I was trying to make. But yeah, it was more so delivering, like you say, in the morning sessions and then obviously up until the evening sessions.
So what does a day look like now?
Days differ from day to day. I try to segregate my days actually between having what are referred to as like maker days and manager days. So manager days are days where I'm getting in touch with clients, getting in touch with leads, things of that nature. So it could be like really busy back to back in terms of Zoom calls, in terms of messaging people back and forth. And then obviously maker days are things that are really going to move the business forward. It is, again, the social media content creation, scripting, creating client resources, lead magnets, marketing things. Just really things that are moving the business forward.
I think you've not touched on a big one there. You know what I'm going to say?
No.
Sales.
Oh, of course, as well. So sales is like a manager day. So even like today, we're obviously doing this, and then I've got plenty of calls booked in after this as well. Where I'm again going back to back, getting in contact with people.
Would you say that's a brand new skill that you've had to learn?
Oh, for sure. Again, it was just kind of like previously getting people onto the personal training side of things. It was just like bit of rapport building. It was a little bit of like they know that I can deliver a service from the videos that they're seeing. And this is the price. Do you want yes or no? And it'd be like, yeah, I'll do that, or no, it's too expensive, or no, I can't pay that right now, or what have you. But now, obviously, I'm certainly sharpening my sales skills. Again, credit to the mentor and the program that I'm on for business, as they've certainly allowed for that.
Yeah, okay. I think obviously when someone's buying a PT session, it's a lot less of a commitment, isn't it, to buying I think is it a 16-week program? 16-week
program, yeah. So exactly that. People can book in for one session and then obviously choose whether they want to commit to a block booking. Whereas obviously with this program, it is kind of committing to the 16 weeks. And as you say, putting skin in the game as well to make sure that they get the results that they want.
Mm. So sales is obviously a big skill that you developed. And it sounds like the social media and marketing is as well. How would you say your content is different from when you first started as a PT to how it is now?
I'd say the biggest thing is just the experience of being able to do it, to be honest with you, in terms of like having an actual format, in terms of like hook, value, call to action.
Is that the format that you follow?
That is a format that I would use often, but I try again just to test things out and experiment, to be honest.
Just explain what that is for anyone who doesn't.
So a hook is obviously something that's going to grab the scroller's attention instantly. So it's going to be something that's really hard hitting and obviously speaks to a certain person as well. The value is something that is going to deliver on the hook. So if I'm using a hook of stop making these mistakes in your diet to get a sculpted body, then I'm obviously going to deliver on the value of what the mistakes are and why they're mistakes. And then obviously a call to action at the end would be something that kind of gets them in my inbox, so I can get chatting to them on a more personal level and see if I can help. So it might be like, I don't know, like a calorie calculator. It might be a PDF document of something that, again, can help them on their fitness journey.
And were you creating content like that when you were a PT, or is this new to the online model?
This is new to the online model. I certainly wasn't doing anything like that. It was just kind of maybe delivering value, but there was no like hook there to get scrollers to stop. There was nothing in terms of furthering any kind of communication with myself and them. The only way that I would know if someone was potentially interested is if they'd liked the social media post or anything like that. But some people can still find the content valuable but not like it. So again, it was kind of something new to the online model for sure.
Would there be anyone who, so if people are listening, would there be anyone who you would say learn the hook story, the hook value, call to action? Like, can anyone, did you learn that from anyone? Would you advise people to go and watch certain people?
I can't remember where I'd seen it now. I've definitely seen this on my course with the mentor. But again, there's plenty of social media channels out there now who focus on like, there's one called Viral Video Club, who I see a lot on TikTok, on Instagram.
I don't think I've seen them. I'll check it out myself. Viral Video Club.
Yeah, again, he talks about these things, talks about like what hooks are stronger, positive hooks versus negative hooks.
Which one works better?
He said negative hooks work best.
Yeah. That makes sense, doesn't it, with just how we are, I guess.
Yeah, I think we are more easy to avoid pain than we are to push towards pleasure. I feel like that's stronger in terms of avoiding pain.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's why I think
again, about that there. Yeah. Avoid pain rather than what?
Seek pleasure.
Rather than seek pleasure.
Yeah. So that's I think. So I think that's why it might have been his hypothesis on why it's a negative hook delivers better than a positive one. But he has plenty of things like that. And again, it's not even necessarily the hook value call to action formula or format that might work best. Again, I try and play around with some other ones. That and just see how those are working. But I think that seems to be the easiest one to to do in my experience.
General format.
Yeah.
Do you have any others that you could sort of touch on, or would you just say, do you have any others that you could touch on?
Another one as well is 3 Ps, which is promise, proof, and what's the third P? It's escaped me now. But basically saying that you're gonna saying what it is in terms of, it's kind of similar. You're gonna open up with what the promise of the video is. If they watch it, this is what you're going to learn by the end of it. The proof is, I've done this with other people, I've done this myself.
Yeah, like social proof, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely, social proof. And then again, delivering the value at the end. So
the call to action, I guess.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I've never heard of that one before.
Yeah.
That's definitely some good value there in that.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, there's tons of different formats that you can do, and you can do it on Reels, TikToks. You can do it more on different things on more longer form content, obviously with podcasts, and you can do things through Instagram stories as well that are slightly different.
Yeah, that's really good. So on the sales side of things, how was that? Because I know sales is like a bit of a taboo subject, isn't it? With so could you just briefly explain sort of what your program is and what it is that you are coaching clients to do, and what you're selling ultimately from a business point of view?
Yeah, sure. So ultimately it is a physical transformation within 16 weeks. So it's how to get sculpted body in 16 weeks without giving up foods that you enjoy, without giving up your weekend socials. Ultimately it is a physical transformation, but again, I love the mental transformation that comes with that. It's all about building sustainable habits. So it's about working with someone one-on-one, finding out, what are the areas that they're going wrong, and allowing them to clean them up a little bit, so that ultimately they can still, stick to the things that drive them. Like I say, their socials at the weekend, the foods that they enjoy, but still make progress as well.
And in terms of like price point and stuff like that, what are you selling that at?
So at the moment, it's just short. It's 874 for the 16 weeks, or we can do it on a monthly basis as well, which works out at 227 per month.
So how did it feel selling a program because obviously you went from selling, well, how much did you sell the PT slots for, like the block bookings and whatnot?
Yeah, so it varied. It's kind of like a bridged approach here, and it's something that when I started first doing online coaching, that wasn't the price point either. It's something that the more experienced I've got, the more testimonials I've got, the more the prices.
Okay. I thought maybe the mentor might have said, going at this price point or something.
Yeah,
like
they do advise in terms of what's like industry standards, but again, it's something, if you're new to it, then you're obviously naturally going to have to start lower, get people in through the door, and then once you are confident that you can deliver that service, that's when you start to charge
the price point.
Absolutely, charge the premium. So again, I probably scaled quite a lot when I was doing personal training, but I got up to like £30 an hour for the personal training.
Did you recognise like a mindset that you had to adopt from selling like a £30 service to like a £800 service?
Yeah, I mean, again, that was kind of the sales technique when I was doing personal training. Just like £30 a session. Do you want it? Yes or no? Yes, no. Whereas this is it'd be
pretty much a little bit like an impulse buy, I guess, can't it? Like it's not a great amount of money, is it?
Absolutely. As you say, there's no real skin in the game there. Whereas with this one, obviously, you are getting people to try and hand over a larger amount of money. Which it's daunting. It was daunting for me when I had to, invest in a mentor, and they said, it's this much. So I was like, whoa, okay, that's expensive. Like, do I want to really pay that? Can I not just do it on my own? But I think it's important to recognise, and is what I try and help, obviously potential clients recognise is, you're not happy with your current situation. You've tried to do it yourself, but it's not really worked for you. And the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So what's the worst that can happen if you take this leap? Well, you lose, X amount of money. What's the best thing that can happen? It can change your life. It sounds like pretty good odds to me. It sounds like a pretty fair deal. So again, I think it's just kind of helping them understand that investment that they make in themselves can ultimately change their life. And in terms of delivering that and asking for that amount of money, I wouldn't do that if I wasn't confident that what I was delivering could change their life.
That's a really good point. You think believing in what it is that you're actually selling is really important.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I think that's why sales probably has got a bit of a bad reputation, is because people probably try and sell things that they're not fully confident in, and they can't deliver on it. Whereas I've done this with, plenty of people now. I've coached over 100 people. And obviously I've got results and delivered on the promises.
I remember when you first started.
Yeah.
Wasn't that long ago?
It wasn't that long ago.
Probably the start of the year, beginning?
It was just the back end of last year. It was like September, October last year.
How many months is that? A year?
Yeah, it was coming up a year. So like over 100 people.
100 people.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Well done, mate.
Yeah,
That's
thanks, man.
Brilliant. So it sounds like now your days are spent doing sales and marketing, I guess.
Yeah.
Being a better marketer, being a better salesman.
Yeah, definitely. Because like I say, I'm still looking at ways in which I can develop my program all the time and make it better, and ultimately make sure that it's more, digestible for more people. But again, it's making sure that I can get out and, reach the people that it can help. So
with your marketing, are you talking about now? Yeah.
With the sales and marketing. So again, I'm always looking to develop a program, but ultimately I need to make sure that the program reaches enough people that it can help. So the sales and marketing is a massive, massive thing on that.
I guess you can have the best product in the world, but if no one's seeing it, then you can't help people.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
So I need to make sure that it is popping up on enough people's screens. People are hearing the messages, and hopefully people that it resonates with, we can get on a call, and obviously I can help them out.
Yeah. Talk to me about because obviously, that sounds really good. Sales, marketing, you've helped over 100 people, which is brilliant. But talk to me about some of the pain points about, still having all this success, but as an entrepreneur, there's bound to be still challenges and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's different challenges all the time. Again, these are things that I'm constantly trying to address. Like, if there's any potential like holes in the program where I'm like, that can be tidied up. If I feel so that there's always going to be kind of holes in certain areas that definitely need tidying up, otherwise my business would be perfect. And I don't really think that there's necessarily anybody's business that's fully perfect. There's always things that are going to need addressing, things that can be enhanced. So I suppose dealing with those things and committing enough time to those things is probably like the biggest constraint, the biggest obstacle that you face. And sometimes, particularly on like manager days where you spent the full day like talking to people, it's like I've done nothing that's really moved the business forward here. But I've obviously helped people in terms of moving them forward on their fitness journey, but the business is still it needs all this doing to it, and I haven't done anything to it. So it can be kind of frustrating. Sometimes it doesn't feel like there's enough hours in the day to be able to do everything that I want to do. And sometimes I feel so that things are not moving as fast as what I want them to move. Yeah. But again, that's all part and parcel. It's applying the rules of applying like finite rules to infinite games. These are things that you're just constantly going to improve upon over time. And I want to have a successful business tomorrow. It doesn't work like that.
And how do you manage those thoughts and emotions?
I think I've got a lot better at them as of late. I say as of late, over the years. If a thought really pops up in my head now, I know that.
What could a thought be like? Oh, I'm not getting to where I want to be as fast as I'd like to be.
Yeah. I'm frustrated at the lack of speed. Like, this is too difficult. Why am I even doing this when I could just have an easy life? All those kinds of things. But they pop in my head for a second or two, and then I know that, again, that entrepreneurial spark that's within me kind of takes over, and it's like, I'm doing this because this is what I want to do with my life. And that kind of overrides that thought that I have in my head at that time.
So why health and fitness? Let's go into like, I guess, the health and fitness side of things rather than the business side of things.
Yeah, so health and fitness, again, it derives from, obviously, a career in football, really. Growing up, you obviously know this, we play football together plenty. I always wanted to be like a professional footballer. And I was always, massive on trying to achieve that. It was everything that I wished for on every birthday cake growing up, as far as I can remember, becoming a professional
every
footballer.
eyelash that fell out as well.
Yeah, exactly that. And then obviously when I was 15, I was signed up for Middlesbrough's Academy, which was like dream come true. It was like one step closer. And then I wasn't there 3-4 months and I was released, which was in my eyes really harsh. And the reason that they give me is, I said, that I wasn't strong enough as a centre defender, which is obviously the position that I play. They told me that I wasn't strong enough. So it was kind of that which sparked me to like, oh, I'm going to get strong enough then, which kind of got me more interested in the gym, got me more interested in my nutrition, because I knew that it would help complement what I'm doing with football. Then obviously I found that there are other benefits to it as well, in terms of, you know, helping me just feel a lot more confident about myself.
How old were you at this point?
This was at 15, 16.
So did you take a bit of a deep dive into strength and performance at this point?
Yes.
You'd never been into it before that, would you say?
No, well, obviously from football, I'd been into fitness, you know. It was probably more cardio at that point, in terms of I wanted to be as fit as possible for football, not really paying much attention to strength or anything. Probably thought of strength as something at that point as something that was maybe a little bit more like a natural thing. Like you're either really strong or you're really fit.
What about the science and what about the science behind it? Like, because were you interested in that before 15, 16? Like, you know, why certain foods do certain things to you? And
I probably wasn't, you know.
No.
I probably wasn't. I mean,
were you after though? Were you at this point? Did you go deep into the science
for sure.
and the nutrition and stuff?
Of course, yeah. I mean, obviously, in terms of building muscle, in terms of fat loss, but when it comes to obviously building muscle, you want to make sure that you're getting in enough calories. You want to make sure that you're getting in enough protein. So that kind of complemented what I was doing in terms of deep diving on the muscle building and strength building.
Where did you learn that? Where can, if people want to start out with their learning of their, you know, health and fitness journey, where can they start? Yeah,
so obviously there's tons of things on social media, some of which is probably a little bit misinformation. There's experts in their field now that do a lot of good like podcasts and social media videos, YouTube videos. So there's a guy who I absolutely love for all things nutritional, called Lane Norton, BioLane.
Lane Norton, BioLane.
Yeah, Lane Norton, and then his Instagram handle, is BioLane. He's great for nutritional advice because he's a actual nutritionist, but he's also practical in the sense that he practices what he preaches. He's like held a world record for squat. He's a like big muscly guy, you know, really lean, obviously like good physique. But again, he's got like the science background as well. There's a guy called Mike Israel who's really good for gym workouts, muscle building, all things of that nature. Again, is an actual scientist. Brett Contreras is another one. Again, these people are like scientists that actually practice what they preach, whereas a lot of scientists who conduct these studies probably don't practice it so well. They're probably more lab-based.
I'm just picturing people with white coats on, like scrawny and yeah.
But these guys are actually like out there doing it as well.
Yeah.
So again, these are like really, you know, great guys who have who've got like the foundational knowledge, and they're putting it out there on social media for everyone to digest.
Yes, hopefully that provides a bit of value for people listening of where and who to look at. Because I presume it's full of probably agenda. Well, it is, isn't it? The food and, you know, big pharma and you know, people selling stuff. They're going to push a narrative and an agenda, aren't they, with how they want you to perceive things. Yeah. But hopefully that provides a bit of value to people. So let's talk about, you know, you've been released from Middlesbrough at this point. Yeah, so I released from Middlesbrough, and like I say, they told me that I wasn't strong enough. So it was massive for me to try and prove them wrong, to be honest. I knew that if I was going to get into professional football, then I had to get stronger. And I was kind of through in the deep end while this was happening, because I was obviously released from Middlesbrough. My junior team at the time had just folded, so they were no longer a thing. So I went and played under 23s football for Gisborough Town, and then got segued into the men's team at like 16, 17. So I was coming up, being told that I wasn't strong enough to compete against people my own age. You were against blokes. To get full-grown men who are not scared to kick you, really go hard on you, like elbow, all those kinds of things. And that was good because that toughened me up whilst I was also trying to do the things in my own time to get stronger as well. So I suppose that a lot of the passion for health and fitness was derived from football, and obviously being told that I wasn't strong enough, to ultimately what it is now, in terms of I love, again, how it has a profound impact on the other areas of my life in terms of business and relationships. How do you think it helps your business? There's
tons of parallels between health and fitness and business. Like I've got like a notes page on my phone full of them.
Let's go through it.
Honestly, mate, I can remember a few of them off the top of my head here. My phone's over there in the bag. But I love how parallels between health and fitness, they're both infinite games. People think that they want to get in shape because people think that they want to get in shape as fast as possible, but it's not a case of the fastest first. It's a case of last man standing. And it's the same as with business. People want, and again, the lesson that I'm learning here, the overriding thought when I have this thought is, I want a successful business tomorrow, but it doesn't happen that way. You need to be able to, appreciate that it is a journey, and the journey is what makes the destination. If I had a successful business land on my desk tomorrow, I wouldn't appreciate it as much.
Yeah.
And we do live in a world with Amazon Prime, next day delivery. We live in a world with Uber Eats, instant delivery after a few taps on your phone, instant streaming via Netflix. We get pretty much everything that we want as fast as we can possibly get it. But a successful business and your dream physique and healthy body and mind are not one of those things, and that's what make them worthwhile.
What was the saying you said at the start? Infinite?
You can't apply finite rules to infinite games. And again, those are infinite games, because once you get a successful business, the aim is then to stay successful. Once you get your dream body, the aim is to keep your dream body. So it's not something where you're going to get your dream body and then that's it, you've won. You get to keep it forever. You need to continue with the practices as well.
I think, what's the guy? Is it Simon? Have you read the book? Yes. Is that his book? Infinite. Yeah.
No, I haven't heard this one.
I'll have to. Yeah, I can't think off the top of my head. Someone actually gave me the book to read. It's something. It's the same, like, it's the same sort of mindset as that. You know, there is no end game, I guess.
Yeah.
So it is about the journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, again, that's like a big parallel between business and health and fitness. Again, like the biggest, you can't just go off motivation alone. This is another driver. I think, again, using the analogy that motivation is like the NOS when you used to play like Need for Speed. Motivation is the NOS, but it's discipline that drives the car. Discipline is the engine. So again, these things are, again, both.
How do you build discipline?
Discipline's by doing it even when you don't want to do it. So I watched a podcast recently with it's David Goggins, who I'm sure loads of people are aware of. He's like a crazy guy who runs like ultra marathons for fun. He's like mad, and there's a part of our brain. I can't remember the name of it now. It's got a really scientific name. But basically, it's like a muscle, and the more that we do things that we don't want to do, we build upon that muscle. So they're saying David Goggins.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's mad. And they were saying that David Goggins' part of the brain must be like massively hypertrophied, because it's just so he can do things that he doesn't want to do when he doesn't even think about it. And I think it's basically like a discipline muscle, I would say. So again, doing things that you don't want to do. There was a great saying that I heard recently where it was mental strength can be measured by the time between the thought and the action. And every time I'm like, my alarm goes off in the morning and I don't want to get up, it's like my mental strength is defined by my thought and my action. So I just need to get up because I don't want to be perceived as mentally weak. That's a battle that I do not want to lose. So, and every time I feel like I don't want to do something, that's the saying that pops in my head. That obviously, bursts me into action and again, build that discipline muscle, I would say.
Have you heard of the book, The 5 Second Rule from Mel Robbins?
No.
That's a good one. It's basically when you don't want to do something, give yourself 5 seconds, but count backwards.
Yeah.
5, 4, 3, 2, and then just do it.
You have to do it.
That's basically the premise of the book.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some really good value in there. Where should we go with it? I think, what are the biggest misconceptions with sort of nutrition that really, sort of get your blood boiling?
Yeah, I think there's a lot out there. Like I said, I think that nutrition is very personal. I feel like there's no one diet fits all approach. Again, there's like a lot of things for better performance. There's a lot of things for fat loss. Ultimately, there's no like perfect diet. It shouldn't be like a case of cutting out carbs. It shouldn't be a case of cutting out meat. It shouldn't be a case of cutting out vegetables or anything like that. every food has its place in a healthy, balanced diet. So I wouldn't say that there's anything that necessarily gets my blood boiling. It's people who talk about things in absolutes that would probably get my blood boiling when they say you need to be cutting out carbs or you need to be doing carnivore diet. You don't need to do that. It's a great tool that can certainly help people, but ultimately it might not be the answer for everyone. And that's because, again, diet and nutrition is personal to the person.
So are you saying that there's no one solution fits all?
Yeah, definitely not. Obviously, if we're talking about like fat loss, we're talking about controlling for calories, but in terms of actual food groups, again, you want to make sure that you're getting in enough protein to maintain lean body mass. But if we're talking about like actual food groups and what to avoid and what to eat, there's nothing really there. It's, again, everything has its place in a healthy, balanced diet. The poison is in the dosage.
What about if someone's listening to this and say they're a business owner and they just want to just feel better and be more productive? Where do they start?
Yeah, so I think obviously the three big levers for this in terms of optimizing for productivity and better performance are obviously nutrition, exercise and sleep. Sleep's a massive one as well, mate.
So you've got your three pillars there, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. So in terms of sleep, which I would say is maybe the biggest lever.
Would you start with sleep? Would you say?
I mean, they all feed into one another. So where you kind of start the cycle is probably, again, personal to the person. But sleep would probably be the biggest lever for me. If you can optimize your sleep, I feel as though that you will feel tons better for it. And in terms of optimizing sleep, obviously you want to be talking about getting at least 7 hours of sleep per night, which I feel as though, again, in terms of business owners, it's kind of become...
What if they just don't have time to sleep that amount of time? Because that's something I thought when I was like really like building the lettings.
Yeah.
It's like, if I do anything else but work, it's just a total waste of time.
Yeah, no, I definitely get that as well myself in terms of thoughts that I've had. Like, if I'm not doing 2-3 things at once, I'm not being productive enough. But I actually really don't think that's the case. I actually think that these things that I'm talking about here, in terms of sleep, exercise, and nutrition, are like investments. And when you spend your time doing these things, they actually give you more time back. So if you spend enough time getting good quality and also quantity of sleep, they will give you time back the following day. Because ultimately, if you stay up all night on the laptop, doing your tax return, whatever it is that you're doing, then I think that you're going to lose time the next day insofar as not performing optimally. Obviously, sleep deprivation clearly shows like signs of lack of memory, lack of concentration and deep focus, lack of retention, to lack of learning ability. There's tons of things that it shows in terms of impairing cognitive function. So if you're sleep deprived and wanting to do a full day's work the next day, you're not going to be able to perform optimally. So again, I think getting at least 7 hours of good quality sleeping is massive. And there's certainly ways that you can optimize for sleep as well.
Yeah.
So it probably starts in terms of optimizing sleep as early as 2:00 in the afternoon.
No coffee.
This is exactly it. So you want to...
How do you stay awake?
So caffeine, I'm not going to say cut out caffeine by any means, because caffeine is great for mental performance. It's great for athletic performance as well. It's a great supplement that we can use. But you probably want to cut it off about 2:00 in the afternoon. You don't want to be having much caffeine after that, because again, it can impair sleep. I think it has like a half-life of around about 8 hours. So ultimately you want to make sure that caffeine's out of your system for when you're ready to go to sleep.
What about the number of caffeines? I know when I'm with you, I know you make like a conscious effort not to have more than one, I think, is it?
So yeah, I have like 2 maybe sources of caffeine a day. So it's like, I'll have like coffee, I've got like energy drinks, obviously 0 sugar energy drinks. They're like my 2 go-tos for caffeine. I'm having 1 or 2 of them. So again, I'm not going to have too much caffeine when I first wake up. I want to make sure that I've probably at least 90 minutes has passed. I want to make sure that I've maybe done some light activity. I want to make sure that I've got some sunlight as well. And then I'll start with caffeine when I'm really starting my work day after I've had some breakfast and got ready. And then again, the second one will probably come about early afternoon. So again, it'll probably be that cut off at 2:00. Because the way that caffeine works is it blocks like the adenosine receptors in the brain. Now, adenosine is what builds up during our waking hours, and when enough adenosine's built up, that's what makes us feel tired. So caffeine.
Just explain that a little bit more.
Sorry. So during our waking hours now, adenosine builds up in the brain just as we're functioning as a byproduct.
Right.
And the more adenosine that builds up, the sleepier and more tired we get.
Oh wow, yeah.
So what caffeine does is attaches itself to the adenosine receptors.
So what are there any other ways to get rid of that, or is it just through caffeine?
It doesn't necessarily clear it.
Yeah.
What it does is it stops our body sensing it. So like I say, caffeine attaches itself to the adenosine receptors. We want adenosine because ultimately, again, it allows us to fall asleep. But it attaches itself to the adenosine receptors, so our brain doesn't sense the adenosine that's built up, and naturally we'll feel more alert and more awake. Obviously, once caffeine's wore off, that's when obviously you get that kind of crash because there's so much adenosine there that we're just kind of realising at once. Yeah. So again, this is why it's important to kind of cut it off after 2 o'clock so that you're easily, in a state to sleep when it gets to, 9, 10 o'clock on an evening. Other things that you can do as well, you want to avoid too much intense exercise and too much food directly before bed.
What's directly before bed, is that?
Like within an hour, I would say, before needing to be asleep. Because again, it's not going to provide like an optimum state of comfort for you to be able to get to sleep. When you're exercising directly before, exercise evokes norepinephrine, which is kind of like adrenaline. So naturally, you're not going to be able to fall asleep if you're doing intense exercise directly before bed. And again, with the food, you're just not going to be comfortable enough to be able to fall asleep.
What about like showers and telly and?
Yes, so again, these are massive ones. So showers, you want to make sure that you get a nice hot shower and also have a cool room as well. That's going to allow the for the blood dilation within the body to drop to its core temperature, and again allow you to easily fall in a state of sleep. And you want to restrict screen time as well, so obviously that emits blue light, which prevents melatonin, which again helps us fall asleep. So again, you want to be. I have like electronics off at like 9:30 at the latest, and then I'm looking to go to sleep 10:30 at the latest.
So you're saying an hour before you want to sleep?
Yeah.
No screen time.
No screen time. No food. No intense exercise. Probably keep drinks to a minimum as well, so you avoid waking up in the middle of the night needing to go to the toilet.
Yeah.
The biggest thing is probably something that I actually haven't touched on here, is having a regular sleep schedule. Now, obviously, we've heard of the term with the body clock, and obviously we've heard like jet lagged. Obviously, our body operates off what's called a circadian rhythm. So when I've referenced about melatonin helping us fall asleep, our body knows off the basis of what we've done previously when to release melatonin, because now it knows it's sleep time. It's also derived by lights as well, which is, again, how the blue light blocks that. So again, we want to make sure that we're going to sleep around about the same time every night, and maybe getting up as well the same time every day.
Yeah, interesting. So that was the first pillar. I mean, I think. So what do you do then? So your coffee or your caffeine is cut off at say 2:30,
Yep.
And then you just no screen time, no exercise, no water, no nothing like that. An hour before you want to go to sleep.
Yeah.
And then do you like monitor it or anything like that?
Yeah, so I have obviously my Apple Watch when I'm going to sleep, and again I just make sure that I get in my 8 hours. I don't necessarily check, through the REM and the non-REM stages 1 through 4. But again,
yeah, because I had the not the Fitbit, what's the other one, the Whoop.
Yeah,
I thought it was quite complicated.
Yeah, I mean it certainly can be. I don't necessarily feel the need to look into that as long as I feel like I've got a good night's sleep and I wake up and I feel like I've recovered well, then I'm happy. I probably just more so focus on making sure that I get in 8 hours.
Yeah. So you're going to sleep when you're saying you are, and obviously you're taking the measures up to that point as well.
Yeah.
So obviously that was the first pillar. There was a couple more as well.
Yeah. So in terms of sleep, like I say, sleep's probably the biggest one I would say. But in terms of nutrition and exercise, to make sure that you're feeling as productive as you possibly can, I think exercise is massive. What exercise is going to allow for is obviously an increased heart rate, obviously providing that you're working to a decent intensity. With an increased heart rate, what you're going to get is blood flowing around the body more freely, and obviously it's going to make its way to the brain, in which is going to be delivering a lot more oxygen, which is naturally going to improve cognitive function as well. It's also going to allow for the release of endorphins, which are naturally just going to lift your mood and make you feel happier whilst you're doing these things. So again, I think improved cognitive function, improved mood, exercise can certainly help with productivity. And then also, again, when it comes to the discipline, a lot of the time people probably don't want to exercise, but again, doing it is probably just going to improve that discipline muscle, which you'll be able to use in areas of, again, business and relationships as well.
So what if people just saying with like what you've talked about with the sleep there, people have got time to do that. I guess the only excuse would be like, I need to work late or whatever.
Yeah.
But with the exercise, what does the exercise actually look like? Does it mean, can it be a walk, or like how long do they have to walk for, or is it something that people need to speak to someone like yourself about to say what it is that they actually should be doing?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it can certainly help speaking to someone like myself to find something that's a lot more personal. But in terms of general advice, I would say a little bit of something's better than a whole lot of nothing. So just doing something that you can commit to over a long sustained time is going to be certainly better than doing nothing. I think when it comes to being time efficient with exercise, if you want duration to come down, intensity must go up. So if you're wanting for a short workout, 20, 30 minutes, then you're going to be having to work pretty intensely. If you want to do something wanting to do something that's low intensity, like a walk, time horizon probably needs to stretch a little bit in terms of like an hour to 90 minutes maybe. But yeah, I mean, again, doing like 20 minutes of something's better than doing nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the nutrition side of things?
Yeah, in terms of nutrition, to set myself up to be as productive as I possibly can, I want to make sure that at breakfast I'm getting in something that is high in fibre or high in protein, or preferably a combination of two.
Do you stay away from carbs at breakfast?
No, I don't, to be honest. Again, there's a massive proponent out there there's a massive narrative out there at the moment to stay away from carbs in general. I sometimes have as many as like 350 grams of carbs a day, and this is probably again to fuel athletic performance, but again it can help boost energy as well. But what I want is to make sure that I'm not getting a massive spike in energy followed by a drop off and a crash.
How do you do that? I feel like definitely struggle with that.
Absolutely. So that's the way that you're going to do that, is by incorporating high protein and high fibre. Because those macronutrients are harder to digest, what that's going to do is slow the absorption rate of glucose into the blood, meaning that you've got a more steady release of sugar into the bloodstream, as opposed to if you were to eat, worst case scenario, you were to drink, a fizzy drink, a Lucozade or something like that for breakfast. You would have that spike and you would feel great, but you would also have that massive crash as well, which would, like I say, ultimately result in you feeling groggy, probably brain fog, things of that nature, which when you're trying to be productive is the last thing that you want.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are some of your go-to breakfasts then, which are like high in protein? And
yeah, so I mean, in protein, I'll tell you what I had this morning. I had bacon bagels this morning. So it is a thin bagel, which is lower in calories, lower in carbs, albeit there are still plenty of carbs in there. Bacon medallions, low fat cheese, and then some low sugar ketchup as well. It's like 450 calories for two and 40 grams of protein. So I think a good general rule of thumb is, in terms of if a meal or a food source is a good source of protein, is if you times the protein content by 10 and it's got that or less calories, I feel like that's a good source of protein.
So you say that again, you times the protein
by 10, and if it's got that, so in this instance, my breakfast had 40 grams of protein, so I'll times that by 10, which is about 400. If it's got 400 or less calories, that's a really good source of protein.
Yeah.
My breakfast had 450, so it's there or thereabouts. I think, again, that's a good way to indicate whether that's a good source of protein. And ultimately, it was high enough in protein where I'm getting an even distribution of blood release to my bloodstream to make me feel productive throughout the day. That
makes sense. And so with those three pillars that you've talked about there, is it just a case of implementing them, as soon as you can?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As I've said, I think these things feed into one another as well. So I like to look at these things as two cycles. So if you're in the cycle of feeling rubbish, then you're probably going to eat rubbish because you feel rubbish. And then because you're eating rubbish, you're not going to go to the gym. And then you've probably got loads of excess energy because you've ate rubbish and not burn it off, where you get to the night and you're probably not able to go to sleep so well. So then you wake up again the following morning, sleep deprived, and again you feel rubbish and the cycle repeats. If you're in this cycle over here, which is the cycle of feeling good, you're more inclined to eat well. You're more inclined to then go to the gym, and then obviously you've burnt off enough energy that you can sleep well in the night. So you get your full 8 hours of good quality sleep, then you wake up the following morning and again repeat that cycle. I feel like if you're in this cycle over here of feeling bad and obviously not doing any of the 3 pillars that we spoke about, I feel like you just need to interject it at some point. So whether that is just starting to eat a little bit better, naturally you're going to feel a lot better about yourself to start moving. And once you start moving, you start burning enough energy to sleep well on a night. And again, you just need to interject it. You just need to cut it off at some point, whether that's with making sure you get a good night's sleep, whether that's making sure that you are exercising or looking after your nutrition. Do that, and then again, they'll all start to look after one another, I feel.
It sounds simple, but it is difficult, especially when you're in a rut as well, doesn't it? And I guess that's why, the service that you provide is valuable, isn't it? I mean, that's what you do for your client.
For sure. I mean, it's simple, but it doesn't mean that it's easy. It's simple in theory, but to carry it out, it's difficult. And ultimately to sustain that, I mean, anybody can go to the gym when they feel like it. Anybody can eat a salad once. Anybody can get a good night of sleep once in their life. But it's about sustaining these habits for the long term, being consistent with them. And that's obviously what I provide as a coach. It's that level of accountability to make sure that they are staying sustainable with these habits that ultimately get them the results that I get my clients.
So you're keeping your clients accountable, I guess.
Yeah.
Putting it all together for them in an easy. Do you plan the week out for them, or do you work with them? Like, how does it? If someone wanted to work with yourself, an online coach, to get all this together and feel better, what would that look like?
So it depends on what they're kind of struggling with, but ultimately organisation, as you've said there, for planning out is massive. The more organised you are, the more you're going to be able to stick to plan. The more you stick to plan, the more progress you make, more progress, better results. So if it's a case of planning someone's week out with them, that's what we can do. I've got multiple tools as well that are going to allow for people to plan out their week. I'll put together an exercise program. They'll let me know when they're available to carry out the exercise program. And obviously, I'll make sure that their workouts are plugged in on those days. In terms of nutrition, there's like a weekly meal planner that I've got that'll allow them to plan their meals so they know how many calories, how much protein they're having. And also generate a shopping list for them as well to make sure that when they go to Aldi or Asda or what have you, they know exactly what they're buying and in what proportion of ingredients. So again, being as organised as you possibly can is certainly going to allow for better outcomes. So that's certainly what it is. It's a case of getting them organised, getting them a plan in place, getting them a structure to follow, and holding them accountable to making sure that they're carrying out these things.
And so if someone does want to start, how much time would they need to get on top of this? Let's say if they're in a, let's say if they're not performing as well as they'd like to, or they're in a bit of a rut, like what does their week look like going forward? Like it sounds like it's pretty tailored as well in terms of what you do with them. Yeah,
of course, it's got to be specific to their situation, which is the benefit of online coaching as opposed to what I was doing in the first instance, where it was just like a plan, albeit that was tailored. If you just get like a plan off the internet, then it's not going to be tailored to you. So trying to fit that in and around your schedule can create a lot of friction. Whereas, as I said, my job is what I see as an online coach is to put as minimal friction in place as possible, so it is working to their schedule.
I feel like people sort of need, like, buying a plan off the internet is fine, but I feel like people also need to talk it through as well.
Definitely.
So, like, why isn't it working? What can we do? And obviously you can't really get them questions answered by just buying a generic plan.
Exactly that. That's certainly my approach. When I have a client who's not making as much progress as they would like, and obviously I make sure that they're tracking all their data, so I can see from the data where it is that they're going wrong. And it'll be like, why haven't you been to the gym on this day, for example? Okay, can you see how that's impacting your progress? Okay, what can we do again if this arises so that ultimately you're able to counteract this and better manage it going forward? So it's a case of recognising that it is holding them back and talking about how we can implement something that is ultimately going to allow them to overcome the obstacle to get them to making progress. And there's always going to be something. It's never going to be like the end of the world where they can't do something. Again, even if it's, I tailor my gym sessions to be really short, like 45 minutes 3 times a week for clients. But if it's something where they can only manage 20 minutes from home, that's absolutely fine. Let's make that work for you.
And then monitor it going forward, I guess. Can we increase it? Is it working?
Exactly.
Stuff like that, touch points. So do they have do they get regular touch points with you, or is it done? How is it done?
Yeah, so I get in touch with them pretty much every other day. I'm making sure that things are progressing as they should. So how are things going? Are you happy with what you're doing as well? Because again, enjoyment's a massive thing for sustainability. Are you enjoying it? what's the biggest things that you're finding difficult. And then at the end of the week, I should say at the start of the following week on a Monday, I'll collate all my clients' data on a spreadsheet, and I'll say, these are the things that you're doing really well. These are the things that you need to improve upon if you want to get to where you are. And again, that's when we'll touch base and we'll talk about the things that are stopping them from hitting those kind of targets that we've put in place, those KPIs as I call them. And ultimately, that's when we talk about overcoming the obstacles. As you say, it's that continued support with the generic plan off the internet, you're not going to get any support to talk through it, and you're not going to get any area of expertise. So when a problem does arise, you don't know how to overcome it. Whereas obviously I've done this for myself. I've done it for, as we say, over 100 clients in the last year. So I'm going to know how to, because they've had those problems before and we've counteracted them. And again, when this problem arises with the next client, I know what works well.
Yeah.
So again, it's about having that person with an area of expertise, that knowledge.
Yeah. I think a massive part of what you do is the community element of it as well, isn't it? So I think, do we just talk about that in terms of the community that you've built up with your clients as well? Because it's not a transactional thing, is it? We know when people want to work with you.
Yeah, I think that's massive. I think community is huge. I think ultimately, if you're in an environment at which everyone's striving for the same things, you're going to be more inclined to also achieve those things. So I don't want people to feel like they're alone on this journey. I know it's something that Chris Williamson in his podcast refers to as the lonely chapter, the chapter at which you're leaving your current group of friends because you've outgrown them on this path of self-development, but you haven't kind of found your new set of friends yet. I want to accelerate that process so that they do find their new group of friends and ultimately put a community together at which everyone's striving to head in the same direction. So again, WhatsApp group of people all sharing accomplishments, sharing recipes, providing motivation. And again, just being involved with people who want the same things as them.
Journey, yeah.
Exactly.
Useful, isn't it? And obviously you also do things like the Tough Mudder as well together, and you actually do physical meetups as well.
Yeah, so again, that was a couple months back. We did Total Warrior. It was in Leeds, which was great fun. Everyone really enjoyed it as well. And I've never done anything like that before. And it was certainly an experience. We've got plenty of photos from the day as well, so I'll certainly have a lot of things to remember it by. But everyone enjoyed themselves, and again, it was kind of overcoming that obstacle. It was like the actual, when I'm talking about obstacles previously, it's been like mental obstacles that they're overcoming. This was them overcoming physical obstacles. So again, it was nice kind of it was nice to kind of physically perform that for again to show that the mental obstacles that they've overcome in the journey that they've made.
Yeah, so obviously it doesn't need to be a scary or a lonely journey, does it? If they're working with you, it's not just a case of you've got a whole community there of people.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And again, I feel like it's a great community where everyone really pushes each other, to do their best.
Can you think of some sort of standout transformations in terms of physical, but also like in terms of just how a person is changing themselves, their attitude and things like that? Do they stand out?
Two stand out in terms of like transformations. A guy called Mikey, I'm going to say first. Mikey came to me. He's like an avid runner, loves running. He runs some crazy distances, but he'd never had like a body that you would never necessarily describe as athletic, that complemented all the work that he was doing. So he wasn't doing anything in the form of gym. He wasn't doing much with his diet. So we tidied those areas up. And he got absolutely shredded. Like, he had that athletic physique that we're referencing. Nice. He was getting much stronger in the gym. And then also his running actually improved, even though he wasn't doing any more in the form of running, just because he tweaked those things with diet, what he was doing in his exercise program by actually going to the gym and doing some resistance training. We had conversations at length as well about his sleep. Just because he tidied those things up, he saw a massive improvement in his athletic performance as well. So again, by a byproduct, the thing that he wanted most in terms of his athletic performance also seen massive improvements.
How long had you been trying for as well?
So I feel like he'd been trying for a while before that, because he'd had like running coaches as well previous to that.
Wow.
Who couldn't really get him to be his best version of himself. But they probably weren't looking at the diet and the sleep and the
holistic element of that.
Yeah, exactly. They were probably just more so focusing on the actual running itself. And it's like, run more distances, run here at this heart rate, run for that length of time. Whereas when we tidied up the other areas of his life, again, that reinforced and fed back into his athletic performance. And
Amazing.
he runs something crazy for like 5K in like 17 minutes. It's insane, honestly. But yeah, that was again, seeing his actual physical transformation and him get like shredded was certainly really good as well. And then another one springs to mind, a guy who's actually just completed my program, and he signed up to obviously go again. And we're slightly different goals. We're looking at more building muscle now as opposed to fat loss. But he like dropped, I think it was about 20, close to 25 pounds in 16 weeks. And he did that whilst navigating social events as well, in terms of he went away on a stag do at Benidorm. He went away to Madrid with his partner, and he went to Leeds Fest as well. And he, like I say, still managed to lose the 25 pounds in 16 weeks navigating those events.
Insane, isn't it? Like
it is, because those are things where people would probably think to themselves,
I'll start after.
Exactly.
Oh, I can't do it because I've got this on.
Yeah, but they can still make tons of progress in that time. And as long as they go, enjoy themselves, let loose if they need to, whatever, enjoy your life. Like I say, life is to be enjoyed. But if you make sure that you're back on it the following day, then ultimately that's what's gonna dictate your progress. I have a saying with clients where it's the 2-day rule. Don't let one bad day spill over into a second, because ultimately a bad day won't ruin your progress. A bad week might, a bad month certainly will, and so often people let one bad day turn into a bad month. This guy, Louis, he managed to again achieve incredible results, and he was looking like the leanest he's looked in a long, long time. But this one was more for the mental transformation. This is what I love most. He was seeing improvements in his work performance. He got a promotion at work whilst he was on the program, which he largely attributed to the program. Don't get me wrong, I assume he's doing great work.
Yeah, I guess it was indirectly because of the program, though, wasn't it?
Absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely.
How he was feeling.
Yeah, exactly. He also said that his relationship with his partner improved. He was less snappy. He said the massive thing was that his sleeping improved. He wasn't snoring as much, so he wasn't keeping her up. So that massively improved their relationship. But again, just the way that he said in terms of his mental transformation, improving other areas of life, and also seeing him massively improve in terms of confidence. He did like a video testimonial with me, and this was a guy who 16 weeks prior would not post anything on social media because he was lacking the confidence. He was lacking the confidence in his self-image. He also was posting social media posts as he got more confident with his body as well. He attended a wedding and he was putting stuff on Instagram, and like I said, to the extent where he was doing a video testimonial with me. So to see someone have that kind of mental transformation, I love that.
Yeah, but with actual tangible improvements outside of his health and fitness with his promotion at work as
Exactly.
well. I think that's such a good place to end it, mate. Although we can speak for a lot longer. If people want to reach out to you, Ree, you've spoke about there the types of clients that you work with as well. Like, it sounds like you've fine-tuned like someone, but then on the other end you've helped someone, just like, it sounds like a normal person, just lose weight, and now you're going to help them build muscle. Is there a certain type of person you'd prefer to work with, or?
So I think in terms of a person that I'd like to work with is someone who has probably tried the same thing over and over again. They've lost the same 10 pounds and gained it back, who don't put in place sustainable habits. This is probably someone who is really upset with the way that they look. They're lacking that confidence, and again, they try extreme measures to do something about it, but it's never long lasting. I want to again help put sustainable practices in place for people. I want to show that health and fitness can be an enjoyable journey, put as minimal friction in place. So again, people who feel as though that they just constantly lose and gain the same 10 pounds, those are the people that I want to work with, and ultimately get them to lose beyond the 10 pound and also keep it off as well.
So you don't need to be an athlete in particular, or you don't need to be just a normal person. It can be anyone.
Yeah, anyone. That you don't need to be an athlete or anything like that.
You just want to make a change in whatever it is you want to do.
Again, I want to help change people's life. If you want to go to IB for in 6 weeks' time and you want to get shredded, probably not the coach for you. But if you want to change your life, then for the long term, again, change your life, not change how you look in 12 weeks. If 12 weeks later you're just going to go back to square one, I want to help you change your life by putting in place sustainable practices, and that's what Sylo stands for, sort your life out. So,
and how can people get in touch with you, Ruth?
So on Instagram would definitely be for the best. So it's Riome_Sylo Fitness.
Thanks so much for coming on, mate.
Yeah, I appreciate your time, mate.
it.
Thank you. My man.